Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Commander Tent, where she sits there and says, "Please, go ahead." And he yawns. Where she says, "Please, go ahead. What are you requesting? What do you want?"
We are in a war with a larger force. We're in a war with Haude Gwenh, and we need all the help that we can get, including that of your free folk.
I understand that. That's why you summoned me here.
Yes,
All of us here.
I need a fighting force, a large one.
How large is large to you?
How much can your people muster?
1,000.
That's large to me.
Do you want 1,000?
I would like 1,000. Whether I can afford 1,000 is another issue.
I've never heard of your home until recently, so I imagine your coffers are rather meek.
They are not overflowing. War is not cheap.
Perhaps 1,000 is outside of your grasp.
Well, what would your pricing be?
Depends on the size, depends on the scale, depends on what equipments you're going to want them to come with. Depends on many factors. And it's more than just, of course, paying to make sure that the army is appropriately armed, fed, and their clothing is maintained. That is also, of course, our fee. What this boils down to, out of game, is whatever the cost is for whatever the army might be.
So they're a mercenary corps in effect, and we have to pay for their arms, their armor, everything.
The way that it works is whatever the cost is for an army that you want to hire from them, whatever the cost normally is for them to be your own army, they are half the BP of that. So if the BP is usually 6, you'd pay only 3 for them. But on top of that, you also have to pay a GP value equaling 600 gold pieces per BP that you're also paying. Remember, usually 1 BP is 4,000 gold. So that is a huge, huge, huge discount. It's like more or less like 48% off, sort of a thing, or 49% off. There comes with certain perks and certain penalties. For one, you don't have to produce their items for them. You just have to pay for the fact that they're being there in the BP overall cost. For them to have it, just because that's the mechanics of the game. But they automatically have it. They don't have to wear it, as long as it's something that they can readily have. You don't have to be like, now we slowly produce the bows. Nope, they just have it. But the downside to having a mercenary army is they are more willing to run away than your actual soldiers are willing to do so they run away a little bit quicker if they're losing. The upside is, should they all be slaughtered to the last man, it has 0 negative effect in your kingdom whatsoever. If every one of them dies in a fiery immolation, doesn't matter. Doesn't affect your people. Like, oh, that happened. Whereas if your army is ever defeated, there's very big side effects. But if they ever win a battle, that positively impacts your people. Whereas your army winning also positively impacts your people. So it's less cost, some risk, but mostly it's reward. So she says, depends on how many you think you can afford. What are you looking to have us do? Do you need us to guard a city? Do you need us to assault a town? What are you looking to have of my people? Are you looking to hire multiple armies or just the one?
We intend to use certain tactics where we are most likely to be outnumbered. We will break a wave upon a rock, a hammer upon an anvil. However, the more damage we can deal to the hammer, the better.
So you're looking for a striking force.
Indeed.
The Free Folk is comprised of men and women, wanderers, warriors, horses and whores. There are many people with many talents that travel amongst us. Some of them call us home. Some of them call us port. Some of them just don't like to walk alone. Whatever the case may be, they're all looking to make coin. And if that coin be warming your bed at night or bleeding your enemy dry, their services will be rendered. So, smashing them against a rock, I'm sure you have some sort of tactic for this fancy language. How many do you need? How many do you have? And how many do you think you're facing?
We have, at maximum muster, as I can see it.
I can drop us over into the other map for you for simplicity, sir.
It would be how much? 200. What is the size? 200, 400, 500. Huge. 1,000 plus. We have 1,500 troops. Including Vigil. Including Baku.
Yep. 1,500. And how many do you know to be a part of the armies of Haude Gwenh? First time her stating who it is. She said before you did who it is you're going to war with. But I think you may have said that in a letter before.
It would not surprise me if they could muster double the number at a push.
Beyond what we're physically capable of, we have information as well. And we sell it like anything else. Would you like to know how big their army is?
I would.
It comes at a cost.
Which is?
She looks you up and down, wherein, and says, you.
I'm sorry, I don't follow.
Oh. You. You will share my chambers, and it will be known that you are mine, even if for a night.
Rayrin's back stiffens when she says that. Seeing as this is for the... Jay just cracking up. Seeing as this is for the good of my people, I will share your chambers, as you ask.
For the good of the people.
But I will not have you say that I was yours.
You are mine for the night. You don't become the hetman of the free folk without conquering every settlement you come across. I could conquer your settlement with bloodshed, or I could conquer you with an evening. You'll be mine for the night. We'll make our dealings, and the information that I have will freely flow from me to you. And I assure you, I have information you want.
I will spend the night, but I say again, if you treat me as a possession, as a belonging, my sword will also be accompanying me to the meeting.
She nods when you say that, and she says, "You're a king. You'll be treated as such, not a pet. At least, not after tonight." She looks to one and says, "I'm sure the men can be commanded by you in the interim. You are the chosen of the blade. Is that what they call you?"
One can't really talk. He just has this massive smile on his face. He's like, mm-hmm.
She'll actually say to you, she's completely stone-faced. She does not seem phased at all by this. Like, to her, this is just as simple as ordering a sandwich at Subway. You know what I mean? Hey, Jared. But anyways, so you, my apologies. So she's like completely stone-faced. This doesn't seem to be affecting her at all. She looks to you and says, in Orcish, a quick little prayer to Vroga. Like, just like a simple passing, almost like an Vroga's name sort of a thing. Like, not like a deeply religious prayer, but something.
Yeah, one's face, when she does that, he kind of just like snaps back. And he's like, in Vroga's name.
Yep. And she says, "Then I believe 500 men is what you're going to want. 500 men, women, all capably armed. Should they be prepared for combat afar, or should they all be given spears or swords? What is it that you need? You're smashing against a rock. I imagine that meant you want them close."
Closing a net of spears would be just as effective as charging them with swords. Out of game, is there actually any mechanical difference between spears and swords?
Yep. Spears actually have a slightly bigger bonus. This is like a little bit more expensive, slightly bigger bonus on the damage output.
As it should be. Spears are the best. You just don't send an army of swordsmen.
I have to check those books, but I'm pretty sure spears also neutralize the benefit of being on horseback.
Okay, I think they should come as spears anyway.
Sure.
That's your typical military armament at this time.
Sure. So you want them to come speared as opposed to sword. She nods and says, "We'll have the spears prepared within a couple days' time. The army will be amassed in a couple days' time. I'm sure you had a position where you want them to be held and a position where you want them to meet in combat. All those details will be handled. There's not a concern there. The army will be moved forward. Who's going to command them? We can provide our own commander, unless you wish to have one of your capable commanders lead them instead. I want you to know that our men follow orders."
Could you command them yourself?
No.
Why?
I have more people to look after. You're taking 500. That leaves nearly 1,000 more.
It's possible that Daelric could lead them.
That might be a good idea.
He is least likely of all our commanders to cause offense for their customs.
Why not? Chosen of the half it is.
Very well. So, 500. The numbers will be put together. We can worry about payouts soon enough. I imagine we can collect the coin from you. And we can open your coffers within a week's time. I do not need to take your coin now. You both seem to be peoples that are not looking to lie. Aside from, of course, this evening. She says over to Wherein. Looks back to one and says, "You're welcome to spend your night in the camps. See our services open to you. By my command, our services will be open to you. Whatever they may be, so long as you're taking no possession with you as part of those services. Understand this, though. You may not be familiar with the free folk. We are many people, and we are not of one mind. So the opinions of one are not shared by the many. If you do not like one, do not assume that is the many. Move about them, speak to them, Some of them aren't even one of us. Enjoy your stay.
One says in Orcish, enjoy your plunder. And then he says, glory to the battle fury, and he'll cast bless and turn to leave.
He says that in Orcish or in Perrin?
Baron will come back later this evening. She asked for an evening. She's getting an evening. He'll do it now anyway, though.
Yep. Details beyond that don't really need to be covered. The short version is this, of course, is as you imagine, literally is just kind of like a power move. It will be obviously known. She's not like you get the impression very quickly. She's not going to sit here and tote this. It'll just be known. It'll be whispered amongst their people what it was that had transpired. Maybe some people have their rumors or whatever, but she doesn't need to speak of it after this. It's literally just known that, crowns fall before her, sort of a thing. And so after that, nothing else needs to be talked about or brought up. It's not like a power move that you can imagine she'll bring in conversation. Like, oh yeah, how about... that's not really her style. So we can flash forward to the next day. With the next day passing, you can imagine finally your communication from your camp is probably either this morning or this evening is going to be reaching back to your general with everything that had transpired in Rid. Details about the army we can figure out in a moment. And the army would have been formed up and we'd be able to move out with you at this point if you care to do that. The rest of their supplies could be trained to them afterwards if need be. But most importantly, information would come flowing your way. Would you stick around in this camp or would you go back to Rid? 1 second.
I would ask wherein if he minds if I head to Reed or he wants me to stay with him.
Okay.
Would really have to leave me here.
Walk of shame by himself.
I can wait for him.
Try not to buy any more drugs.
Walk of shame. So glad my 20s are over. So what was I saying? The what was I saying to you?
What's this lady's name?
Oh yeah. What was her name? Hetman is her title.
Yep.
And her name is Isa Krum. Izha Krumm.
HA.
And then Krum.
K.
Rumm.
MM.
Isa Krum. You're like,
Okay.
What's that right there? Isa Krum. A crumb? Yes. Isa Krum.
Jesus Christ.
A crumb, like you could eat it.
It's a crumb.
Sorry. People want us to roll for hotness. Jake, you can handle this one.
What am I rolling?
I can't. Is it D20 or is it 3D6? I feel like it's 3D6, like you're rolling a stat. Or if you want, /R space 4D6 DL1.
/R space 4D6
DL1. Like you're rolling for an attribute.
DL1.
Which there is a book in D&D that allows for things like that. Hey! Must be the money! If you want to come, take a break. Hey.
You're welcome, man.
You're welcome.
Oh, there you go. He's got that half-orc touch, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to just reduce the Hetman to a number. She's a woman, okay? So anyways, when she gives you information, she actually delivers 2 important bits of information to you. She informs you that their army, she informs you that they have spies who have been watching this. So we can actually pull this in like a meeting, like an RP meeting, so that both of you would be there. So the next day when you guys meet up, and this is going to be probably around noon the next day, so late morning, almost noon time. She'd be meeting with you. The skies are finally starting to clear up, sort of a thing. And she'd be meeting with you and saying, the information that we have discussed from yesterday, I have it for you. First and foremost, I do want to say that the army you're dealing with is smaller than it once was. It could have been devastating, but fortunately, that has ended. There was a point in time where if somebody told me that their numbers were 20,000, I would not have raised an eyebrow to it. Now, if you were to tell me 10, I feel the same. It seems as though many of their people have deserted. There's even a bit of infighting inside the city itself. There's unrest that's going on. There was a recent happenance. There was waters were poisons, and then they were flooded by creatures. Creatures of goop that took goop from the river with them, perhaps collecting their own, whatever it is. Either way, their armies have disbanded, incredible numbers. But not all of their armies exist around Haude Gwenh. Their primary force is in the area of Haude Gwenh, and they are preparing to march, if they haven't already, very soon. But that is not where all of their men and women are. They have reserves. And the towns to the east and to the west of Haude Gwenh, they have many reserves. It's important to note about these reserves, though. They do not fervor for battle the way that you do, she says, looking to one, or the way that I do. They are something that can be handled. But much like any other mob, you bring them close together, and they'll feast off of the fervor of those around them. And they will add to their number and their might, same as a well-trained soldier would. Of one of these armies, I had scouts look into them. They failed, but not completely. We learned something of them. We have maps. You care to see them?
Yes, we would.
She, calls back to the man that's been kind of like quietly ignoring you guys most of this conversation, same as last time. This time, she says, "Nereus, come." And he grabs.
Music's too loud, Scott.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's funny. Nereus, come. And he grabs up some scroll cases and comes over and pops open the scroll cases and pulls out the maps that are inside there and lays them out on the table. You guys can actually quickly see that these are maps of the region known as Austrad. This is to the east of Haude Gwenh. This region alone has with it an army of about 200 reserves. Not a particularly large group, it certainly can add to complication on a battlefield. I'm pretty sure there's more in Harad. I think that's the name of that shithole to the west. Either way, Austrad's strange. They've been taking a triangular-like scout. They head to the north, where there's a little camp there. That's where my men met them. But then they head to the south, and they walk along the riverbed. They seem to be looking for something. The scouts that I had said that they were walking in a very set pattern. Hi, Neil. And a very set pattern to the to the north. Would always stay in the same camp, but to the south, they would change it up, move here and there, walk further, this side of the river and that side, trying to find something. But what they were trying to find and why, we weren't able to procure. Their actual leader amongst them, they weren't able to capture him. Killed some of the lieutenants or whatnot, but a little bit of disarray, but they weren't able to disband the army. But they're looking for something down there.
You say this is... Could you ping on the map where it is they're referring to, Scott?
Again, Austrad?
Mm-hmm. They're talking about this south riverbank, yeah?
Correct. And so more or less...
and they're
if I'm going
foraying down towards the keep.
Non-snapping. So you know that there's like an area that they always seem to come to north of it, where they always go there. And you don't know exactly where it is because they didn't get to go there. But you know that at the very least south, to whatever mixed up degree, they seem to be searching for something down south. But always coming back to the same point in the north. So it seems like to the north they're not looking for anything because they always walk the same path. But to the south, the ever-expanding searches.
So probably the keep or an elemental.
maybe something down there. You're not entirely sure what it is, but something down there they're looking for. Their commander seems to be a Perrin.
What's his name?
Don't know. As I said, my scouts failed, but not completely. Some disarray, lieutenants injured or killed, maps procured, and then the information I have before you.
Do you know of the battle we just had?
My scouts told me this morning. Many graves were dug. We don't usually dig graves for those that we kill. I hope that's okay.
One looks to Rayron and just kind of looks back at her, and he says, doesn't say anything about that, but he says, we took the commander that was supposed to command the primary army. Do you know anything about the others?
Of the other commanders? I
Yeah.
don't. But we can look for scouts. We can take them, and we can bleed them for information.
One nods.
You wanted my army to meet you for the primary fight. We'll do that, if that's what you want. Might I make a suggestion?
Please.
Let us handle the reserves.
Including the ones that seem to be working their way in some type of pattern below Strahd.
All the towns that have fallen to Haude Gwenh, let us handle those towns. We will smash their armies. We don't need to kill them to the last man. These are reserves. You bend them enough that they break. We'll smash their armies and make sure that no recruits come to aid them. We can handle
Wish
that.
to loot the towns.
She looks at you. Roll me a sense motive, both of you.
Fucking fantastic. She wishes to loot the towns.
Quadruple, Jesus. So her lip quivers the slightest amount. Her eye twitches the slightest amount. One so perceptive he sees this. You know that as soon as he asks that, the answer is obviously yes. But her response is, do you wish to work this into some amount of a negotiation? There will be no knife at your back, whether it be held by the hands of my men or the reserve armies of theirs.
We are working with you. The Haude Gwenites will notice this. The people will know this. I would not want it said that we were working with pillagers and raiders.
Who knows of this meeting?
It will be rather apparent when the free folk fight alongside us.
If we fight alongside you, I said we can handle the reserves, and we wave no banner. We would look like marauders taking advantage of a situation.
Would you excuse us for a few moments?
She gestures towards the opening to the tent.
Raren would stand, walk out with one. Her plan is not a bad one, but I resent the idea of raiding people who may one day be under our command.
As you guys are outside the tent having a conversation, you notice a very massive man walking his way towards you. He's, 8 feet tall, maybe? He's a fucking mountain of a man coming his way towards you.
Goliath's unlocked. Carry on. I mean, I guess Raren would stand out of the way because he's a big man. But, you just carry on talking to...
As you guys maintain your conversation, he will... I interrupt you for a second. You guys can continue your conversation. As you're talking, he would walk past you and into the flaps. Go ahead.
What is your opinion on? I don't think that this is a necessary move. Perhaps, yes, we could stop them from attacking from Harad with an attack, with a force. But there's no reason to loot the towns. There's no purpose in uniting a deer when it is broken and looted for all that it is worth.
One looks kind of perplexed. He says to you, "Look around you, Wherein. Tell me, what do you see?"
People who are willing to do anything to survive.
She brings a valid point. If they do take out the other armies on their own, without any of us there, it can just look like they're acting on their own behalf. Although she did seem like she was open to negotiation. Now, maybe in order for her to, say, not pillage the towns, what is to be done with Haude Gwenh once we have conquered it? You know they probably have vast reserves of BP.
They will have vast reserves of money, yes, but they will be burning through it at an advanced rate.
Yes, but, could still very well be within the city itself, paying their soldiers, blacksmiths, whatever. I'd say you may be able to offer her a cut or a percentage of spoils of war from Haude Gwenh in order to placate their bloodlust and greed.
They offer to deal with the reserves. She also said that her soldiers will follow commands. We deal with the reserves and they don't loot. Some minor looting is bound to happen. Valren will be their leader.
Valren will not be there if this plan is to work. It's hard because I understand what you're saying. It does not look good on our part to be known as...
It's not just about what looks good, it's about what is good. There's no reason to loot these people. They have been pressured, yes, and they have drawn up a military that is passing at best. There's no reason to let these raiders free. Perhaps I'm unsure on this one.
When you asked her about whether they plan to loot the town, I can tell you with absolute certainty that is their plan. And unless you negotiate a deal with them, that is what will happen. Hence the suggestion of offering them,
Yes, let us speak with them.
Yeah.
We head back in.
You go back in. You can see that the large man can't stand inside this tent unless they're standing in the middle of it. Actually, no, that's not true. Never mind. They can't stand inside because it's massive all around. But either way, they've taken a seat off to the side, so they're going to go like 90 degrees, from either where you or her are sitting opposite each other, and they're sitting there. And when you come in and sit down, as you come in, you kind of like look towards him, so you gotta like note him. She'll actually gesture towards the man and say, "This is Nagan. Nagan Lowlander Thuluta. He's the master of horses. He's come to inquire as to whether or not you'll be needing to utilize horses and whether or not we'd have to procure some. I informed him, no, we've worked out numbers, and we may actually be able to give you 1,000 soldiers. But first, let's discuss what it is that you want to do."
What horse can bear him?
He looks at you and says, "A good one."
One nods, just puts his attention back towards her.
I think your plan to remove the reserves is a good one. It would demoralize the enemy and remove a possibility of pincer attacks and further harrying attacks. However, I don't wish for you or your men to loot the cities, the towns.
I can tell you that if I give that command, they will follow it as a whole, but not as an individual. Do you understand?
I do.
And so the reputation will be about as squeaky as we can manage.
Do I need a sense motive on this?
Yeah. Got it?
Yeah, agreed. Wherein, where are you?
One, you get the impression that she's being honest, that she will give that order, but you're not fully convinced by it. One, you get the impression that she's being honest, she'll give the order, but she pretty much knows they won't listen anyways.
One would turn to Wherein and say, she'll give the order, but most of the men won't follow.
She looks at you when you say that to him, and she's still stone-faced. She just looks at you as you plainly say that outright. However, the giant man that's there by you guys, Nagan, he actually does like a... with that same sense motive, you guys get the impression he just seems annoyed. Like he's just not happy with this whole situation. You would say, probably, Wherein, you get the impression he's not happy with maybe this meeting. He's just annoyed in general. One, you get the impression that it's probably something more than that. Just not happy.
One would turn and say, is there an issue?
Oh, shit, he said it. I was like, oh my god, is one about to be like, you got a problem, mate? Oh god, he said it.
You say, is there an issue? He looks at you and says, not a one. So dry, both of you guys know he's lying.
Speak your mind.
My mind has been spoken, and the decision has been made. There is not a single issue.
One nods and looks back to her.
I guess he'd rather support Haude Gwenh.
And so she says, as I said, I'll give the order. If you prefer, you can send
Can you please look at what Naga wrote?
What Naga? Oh, jeez. Moving on. So he continues. Sorry, continuing on. He says. So she says. Kind of like after that little exchange happened, she, I don't want to say defeated, but admits many of them won't listen to the order. Like I said, they follow orders on the battlefield. However, after the battlefield, they are the individuals. And like I said, they all have their own minds. That's how it is that we function. So, if you wish not to have my armies head to the south, then my armies will stay here and fight the main force. They'll do as it is that you wish. As I've already discussed, we've kind of worked out how much it would cost for each of you to have this happen. But I would then suggest you send your own armies to do this. If I'm to be here and fight the main force for you, with you, then I wish not to have any reserves aiding them in the fight. Then you can ride into those villages as your own saviors and paints the picture that you care to have Adir see you as.
You mean not looted? Yes, I see no reason why we wouldn't require the help of your formidable force anyway during the initial fight. If they can muster a force as large as you say, then we will need everything we have to break it. Once we have won the initial combat, perhaps then we will send some of our men or some of yours out to deal with the reserves.
Talking numbers for a quick second, a gargantuan army has an ACR of 7.
+7.
No, ACR is their challenge rating, and 1,000 is a gargantuan. So it's an ACR of 7.
Yeah.
So the way that would work.
CR of individual creature +6. So their CR is 1 +
Correct.
6. Yeah.
Correct. So an ACR of 7. The way that breaks down is it would have a consumption of 3, but because you're giving them the better equipment, so you're arming them better, so their stats wouldn't be just the flat. Here is the typical stats for a huge army. I'm going to toss this into Twitch chat. And here you go. So in case people care to see that. So the stats would actually be slightly better than what you see there. However, so instead of a consumption of 3, it would be consumption of 4. Now, the way that this would cost you guys is it would cost a consumption of 2. That's 2 BP a week to pay for them because they're covering half. It's only half the cost. But it would cost 700 gold pieces a week as well.
And taking out 1 BP is how much gold?
When you put in, it's 4,000. When you take out, it's 2,000 unless you make a good economy check, and then you can get more.
Okay, cool.
But you guys already have pretty deep coffers.
Yeah, I believe that's what we were planning to do.
We have
anyway.
like 9,000 gold between us.
I was gonna say you could probably fund that army out of your pockets without even sweating about it.
Yep. I think that's a good plan then.
Yeah. So and she says, and truth be told, if you're taking a force as great as this, marching them a short distance to wherever it is you anticipate the fight rather than the far distance is probably the better one. It was, in fact, Nagan's opinion that weighed on this matter. He speaks up for the first time, like without being prompted, and says, "If we're gonna do it, let's just finish it. Smash them, be done, move on our way."
I appreciate that sentiment, Nagan.
He mumbles something to himself. DC 10, you'll hear what he mumbles.
Oh, go on then.
Do I auto pass? Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Perception.
At 11, so.
Boom.
I don't give a fuck what you appreciate.
Yeah, Nagan might be right. I don't like that.
Patreon knows what's what. What? Well, 3 members of Patreon.
It's fine. You can't kill your wife's pet. It's instant dump material. No, Wherein's a cat. He's an asshole pet, and you know it.
Sorry, hold on. Let me just...
I want someone to clip that really badly.
Just get all the Scott impressions of a cat and just like put them together as one.
Just that bit can just GIF it with the sound file. Oh God. Horror.
Moving on. Yeah. So she works on the numbers with you and says, "So we have ourselves a deal. 1,000 soldiers to be met on a battlefield. Who is in command of this army?" You said your own, correct?
That was our initial thought. Perhaps your opinion has changed now that 1,000 of your people will be on the field.
My opinion hasn't changed at all. You hire us, you lead us. I must still stay behind with the remainders, those that do not intend to fight.
What about the big boy?
Nagan?
He nods.
I go with the army.
Good.
He looks at you and says, "Are you looking to challenge me?"
One's confused and kind of looks over at him and says, "Challenge you for what?"
Looks away again.
Perhaps you could tell us more of this custom. He directs this at
There's no custom. Again,
Isa.
the mind of one is not the mind of the many. He's being an ass.
Fair enough.
One chuckles.
He sits there quietly, very dissatisfied. She says, "Very well then, unless there are any other reasons why you wish to stay." She says that looking at Nagai, Rayrin. She says, "Unless there's any other
Fucking
reasons
words.
you wish to stay, then..." Sorry, that was Freudian slip. Any other reasons that you wish to stay, I suggest you take your army and head back home. I'm sure those that you command are looking forward to seeing their leaders once again. You've already pointed where it is that you want the army to meet. We will be leaving tomorrow."
Thank you. Just so we know, what is Nagan?
What is your question?
Does he hold rank here? Is he close to the leadership?
She says he is not on the council, but he is the master of horses.
Can I sense motive if there's anything else?
Sure.
Nailed it. +4.
She's not lying. He's not on the council. He's the master of horses.
In that case, we will make sure to treat him with the respect he deserves.
He kind of scoffs, like, but you get the impression from that it's like, I don't need your respect. You know what I mean? Sort of a thing.
Yeah.
He's just,
What race is he?
he's just indignant.
He's got a small peepee. He's really angst.
Actually,
I'm so ripped.
you're the one that would actually know he's a mountain man. You know what I mean? Like you've seen them before. He's just he's a mountain man. They're actually known in a lot of them live out in where Kajinksi now is, because there's a lot of mountainous region over there, and some of them live in Vala as well. But you guys don't really interact with Vala. But they generally live in the mountains, and they generally keep to themselves. They usually, I don't want to call them tribes, don't want to call them villages. You know, it depends on the individual. They have their own cultures depending on where they are, but just like people do, right? But they like when I say people, I mean humans. Not to insinuate that non-humans are non-people, fucking elves. But they're just mountain men. They're just rather big men, and women, of course, and children and older people. So you guys
like
could,
you, Scott.
you guys could separate ways with them, and you can head back
like a
to
big
your camp. Val has done exactly what you guys discussed he was going to do. He got the army prepared so they could start marching to go meet with General Jaeger, which you guys will be able to do the next day. Everybody kind of start to march
One
on.
would suggest to Rayron actually that Hinter's army takes the reserves.
Oh, okay, cool.
What reserves? Sorry.
The more or less that so when you guys go to have your like as you guys are riding towards Rid, one is suggesting to you like, hey, if we're going to be doing her plan, which is attack the reserves in the villages to the south and around,
Oh yeah.
she's a horseback army. They can get there quickly.
Yeah, that's true. She's quick. How big is the army?
Hers is currently 200. Riders of Varen are 200. And they move at 3.5 squares a day, which is a lot.
And Harad has got a smaller army than Ostrad. Ostrad has 200, and she said Harad has less.
No, she said she doesn't know about Harad, but insinuated maybe more.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Then they be at. But they won't have walls, will they? Harad and Ostrad won't have walls.
They won't have walls. They won't have horses. And they are reserve armies, not so they're militia, not armies, which is a big difference.
Okay, then I would agree if Hint is amenable, as long as she knows there is risk.
Okay. So later on that day, you guys join back into Rid and have this conversation, of course, with the rest of command that's there and everything. And Hinta would, of course, say, absolutely. Do you guys, how much do you divulge to her? Do you divulge all of, like, to your commanders? So when I say the commanders, let's be clear. Hinta, Tali, one, Rayrin, Val, though maybe he's taking a nap because he's, I don't know, tired or something. Kithul, and let's say 3 or 4 nameless lieutenants are all inside this tent. So there's about 10 people in this tent. What do you choose to divulge? If you don't want the nameless there, if you don't want anybody else there, let me know. What do you choose not to divulge of everything that you just heard of in the Free Folk? And
Main commanders only.
I imagine you are not going to talk about the fact that you get to sleep with her. I imagine that's just one of those like, yeah.
Yeah, of course,
Why
Rayron's
talk
not
about
gonna
it?
Bring it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
With the nameless guys out, Rayron's happy to divulge everything to those
Okay.
people.
Oh, what about 2 and 3? Because now they've actually. Oh wait, is 2 with them? Yeah, 2 is with them. 2 and 3, would they be invited?
2's not invited. He can come if he comes with 3, but he's not invited explicitly.
3 would come, and so 2 would be there as well. Perfect. So no nameless. All the ones we named. Perfect. You divulge everything except for, of course, sleeping with her because that's just stupid. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So you do
Whereas
that.
like the nameless commanders would get like details on like
Of
the
course.
size of the forces and stuff, but not necessarily everything.
Of course. So Hinta would say they were searching for something. Do you want me to go to Lestrade first?
Yes.
Do you want me to
think-
find what they were looking for?
I suspect.
That can be done later, right, Rayron?
I agree.
What if it's
Destroy the-
time sensitive?
It's possible. I've heard tell there are keeps scattered across the land. It's possible that it could be that. We have a map, I presume.
You do have a map.
He would approximate the location of the keep because he's seen keep map a lot.
Correct. As is Val, and Val actually explicitly says, hold on. I'm going to have to RPS test for a second. In fact, when I first came to the land of Adir about a year ago, before the three of us met one another,
Good.
I traveled by that very keep. I
And you
didn't
said there
recognize
was
what it
some
was.
horrible presence inside. Yeah.
There was, yes.
In which case, if you manage to find the keep, ensure that it remains closed and leave. If they wish to unleash something that might help them in the battle to come, then I would rather avoid that, if that is their intention.
She says, should you send anybody else with me for the finding of this keep, or should we just decimate the army? Should we just defeat the army and move on, leaving the keep as a non-factor?
I believe moving on, leaving the keep alone would be for the best. However, I would ask that you use your judgment. If this keep seems like it is well traveled, people travel past it often, or you are worried about something getting out, it may be worth leaving a few scouts.
Val will chime in again and say, when I traveled by it, it seemed as though I was the only person that had been through that region in a long time. Granted, that was nearly a year ago, but still, I imagine that things couldn't have changed too much since then, especially if they're still looking for it.
Well, in that case, let us pray that it remains that way.
Everybody kind of agrees, and she says, we'll have the riders set out in the morning. Is there a way that we can communicate a little bit better?
I don't believe there is.
It would be very useful.
I keep getting some daddy's dice thrown into me. People are going to have to spend some daddies so I can actually use them during the war so I can beat you guys' asses.
Got a gold coin of summon animal messenger. I'll give that to her and say, unfortunately, I only have one. However, it will allow you to send a bird to my location with a message. It is limited somewhat in its scope, but it will be faster than sending a rider.
What's her name? 3 will chime in and say, that's a unique coin indeed. 1.
Yes.
In my youth, before my time with you and before my time where we met, I grew up, as you know, in the forests. We used similar things for communication at the time. Unfortunately, I don't know if we have enough time to prepare ourselves for this, but we had birds that would transfer messages from one location to the other, vast distances, pretty quickly. Perhaps something like that can be done? Do we know of someone that might be able to train birds to transport transport messages from one location to the next.
And you?
I'm so far removed from that life. I don't know. I only know Vroga. I only know war.
Kithel, you have always been in tune with nature. In fact, I remember you being far too in tune with nature when we met. Would you have any luck at this sort of thing?
He thinks for a moment. Oh, sorry. Shoot. Clicked the wrong button. Where are you, Kithel? Bam. He thinks for a moment and nods and says, When we first met, I was, as you had stated, in tune with nature, and am still as in tune as I was then. It was something I practiced, something I thought to work on. But since I have joined this kingdom, I have focused more on the art of war. I have focused more on combat and less on that attunement. Unfortunately, I think it would take time for me to learn the magics to do what it is that you suggest. Unless you suggest something more mundane. Then perhaps, maybe.
We are talking of training birds to carry messages. There is no shortcut if we do not have it available.
The only one I know that might be able to do something like that in a time frame worth even noting is Dwayne.
Yes, we have asked a lot of Dwayne, and he has suffered for his service. I would hesitate to call upon him again.
We don't even know where Dwayne is.
He went to collect his bounty.
He did.
Before he did the errands that got him into trouble. That is where he said he was going, and I believe the letter after he handled that situation said as much as well.
Yes. But I've heard nothing since. I would not even know how to contact him.
He nods. Unfortunately, I don't know if such magics are available. Val would be able to chime in and say, there are magics that do allow you to communicate great distances like that, but without a scroll or something that allows us sending as the name of the spell.
We'll just have to trust in you, Hinter.
She nods and says, I won't fail. We'll be leaving in the morning. I'll go and give commands now. And from this point, you guys don't really need to converse much else. So let's just kind of flash forward a day and see kind of like how things play out on this map that we have set before us. And then we can take another break and come back and see how this last hour goes. So the free folk move a bit slower. No, actually, I think they move 2 at a time, right? Yeah. So Vroga's army, which is going to come with you guys as well, is able to move. They were also in here, so they move. 1, 2. Rayron's riders. Riders of Erin are going to be able to move. 1. They're going to want to stay outside the outskirts so they don't get spotted. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, and a half. And a half is here in that 1 day's time. The free folk are able to move 2. So they're going to cross the river 1, 2 is where they're going to go. Rayron's riders, unless you give them commands to do so, they're going to stay right there protecting your capital. Army of Valoran is digging their camp and starting to work on their camp. The Army of Vigil is just ever vigilant. With that, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back because that was my turn. I have to pee. So why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back and see where we are. So see everybody in just a moment. Bye-bye. Okay, turn up the music. All right, I'm gonna switch to combat music. I gotta pee. I'll be right back. Oh, apparently I didn't mute myself. Maybe I unmuted myself. All right.